So after my last Storytime video, I realized that I had nowhere near covered the extent of my childhood trauma, once you account for my teen years as well. Now, middle school is a whole nother bag of worms, and a very toxic one at that I'm going to stay away from for now, and there's one person who subscribed to my channel, and you know why. So we're going to jump right to my freshman year of high school, which I consider to be the most hellacious year, probably of my entire life. Now, there's a number of reasons for that, which I'm going to get into. So, first and foremost, there was an interesting phenomenon that was happening at my school. So, at the late date of 2014, it was already the age of social media and everything. You probably wouldn't expect upperclassmen hazing to be that severe. In the case of this year, it strangely was. Now, the seniors took it upon themselves to torment the freshmen of my class pretty severely. Just an overall menacing tone in the air. You know, very tribal energy. Now, this was most pronounced at the beginning of the year when there was a pep rally. Now, they took it upon themselves, the senior class, to do all these chants. Like, there was this one girl in my grade, and they chanted that she was a slut, and then they just chanted the name of this really fat and quiet kid. I was the second most fat and quiet kid, so it kind of spared me from being the butt of that joke. There was a story that went around also about a kid who wore the wrong color on pep rally day, and apparently he had been kidnapped by the seniors, and they, like, I don't know, they took him around town. I'm not sure what they did to him. This was a rumor, so I can't verify it either, but it's believable considering the kind of environment that was in the air. Now, a group of seniors descended upon me at the lunch table one time. They sort of all sat down and ganged up on me. You know, I'm this little freshman. I'm very short. I was like 5'4". I didn't grow much more after that, though, unfortunately. I only ended up being 5'7". But, you know, there was this one giant kid. He felt like he was 30 years old, but in hindsight, it's funny to think he was only 18. He, like, wrapped his arm around me. That may seem friendly, but his intent was definitely not friendly. He started asking me all of these questions, like if I was a virgin and why I was sitting alone. Then he just started, like, stealing my food. Whatever, like, he wanted to be a bully, it felt like, but he didn't really know how to do it correctly because he's just a moron. And I remember the teachers being like, wow, I can't believe that bullying is this severe still. This reminds us of when we were in school. And they had an assembly where they, like, lectured the kids because they were like, shit. They lectured the upperclassmen because they were like, shit, we can't have this in the age of social media. All of these incidents that are occurring. So I just found it funny, and I think about that sometimes, but that's definitely not the primary reason why my freshman year of high school was the worst. I had this class called digital photo, and my teacher was, like, extremely stern for some reason. I don't know what was going on in his personal life, if he was getting divorced or something, and he took this class way too seriously considering it was just digital photo, like it's just some art elective. But he ended up really focusing in on me because, I don't know, I just seemed like I didn't know what I was doing. He would just criticize me all the time and, like, grade my projects really, like, ridiculously harshly. He called my mom and, like, talked about how every time
he takes one step forward in this class, he takes 2 steps back.
Whatever that means about a digital photo class. Like, it was just these projects where he would, like, edit. We would go out and take photos in the world, go to a park or something, and we'd have to make certain edits on these photos, and mine weren't to his liking, you know. I was 14 years old, but this was very intense. And one time I was using a camera, and just, like, a little piece of it just fell off. Like, I don't know, these cameras, kids would rent them out and use them constantly, so, you know, they were a little worn. He got super intense about that, and he was, you know, talking about a payment plan for me to pay for the camera. I don't remember what had happened, but I guess I didn't show up quickly enough after school. He wanted to meet me after school over digital photo. He's like,
it's ridiculous that you expect me to sit around here all day long waiting for you.
Like, Jesus Christ, dude. I just couldn't leave my last class quickly enough to get there. Funny, because most of the bullies that I remember were actually more so the teachers. I also had this one teacher freshman year who was a football coach, so you can imagine the kind of energy that was. Although this guy was a little different. You see, he was sort of a hippie, and he wanted to philosophize to the class, and, you know, he was very high and mighty. Like, one time he had this line, and I apologize because I seem to do the same voice for everyone, but he said, do you realize that any object around you could become anything else at any given time? And he was trying to make some point like, oh, you can't prove that it won't. but it was just like not as deep as he thought it was. And I was terrified of him because he was macho, and football is a big deal. It was a big deal at my high school and probably still is. So one time he just realized that I wasn't participating, so he made me stand up in front of the class, and he wanted to show everyone like how the Romans held a shield or something like that. You do this like weird formation. He's like,
Oh, Jesus Christ, no, you think you put your arm like this, you put your arm like this.
and he was just trying to make some kind of weird example out of me. Present my partner's material one time when my partner was out sick, because he said that you should know it anyways, but it's not what I'm presenting on, so I don't know why I should know it. He had another situation with my English teacher. It was a female this time, and she was younger. Very family values coded, we could say. And she seemed to clearly have an issue with this black kid in class, and she would always like point out what he was doing wrong. Like, he was just quiet, but like she always found some reason to have an issue with him. And that was the first red flag for me with her. I was always in a group with this kid, and she seemed to not like me either for whatever reason. She had her chance to really get one over on me one day because I forgot to get a permission slip for a movie signed. Holy shit, the end of the world. So I texted my mom, because, we were allowed to have phones in school back then, and I asked her if I could just sign her name, and she said, yeah, of course, I don't care. But of course, this teacher analyzed my paper and could tell that I was the one who signed it. So she brought me out into the hallway and gave me this big lecture. And then my mom just emailed her that night and said, hey, I actually gave him permission to sign it. And she gave some like very passive aggressive response, like,
That's fine.
didn't say anything else after my mom typed her like this big paragraph. So yeah, it was just strange. And yeah, this was also a school year where I didn't have friends, as I alluded to earlier. But yeah, the rest of high school I wouldn't say was as bad. I mean, it's not great, it's still high school. But I guess this was just a therapy session for me that was maybe enjoyable for you for some reason. And if any teachers are listening, probably not going to like my message here, but the teachers can be the biggest bullies sometimes. Kind of something I wanted to get across. But yeah, I was just this fat, shy kid. Maybe some of you can relate to that, and just was not a positive experience for me in any way. And it's definitely more of my childhood trauma, as I talked about in the last video. And yeah, I think I'm a Storytime channel now, because I don't really know where else to go with my channel, and I have fun making these.